All right, everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I've made a couple of videos now, so I've actually decided that I'm going to come up with a name and have a logo and all that snazzy stuff. So it'd really be cool if you could subscribe. I can't promise I'm going to make a lot of content because this maybe is not my thing, but I'm going to give it a shot. I am just doing this to be helpful to the community. I really appreciate what I've learned from other people in the group, and I'm sure they've appreciated what they're learning too. So this is just about sharing information. I've also been told I babble a lot, so I'm gonna try to keep that to a minimum. But anyway, subscribe, that would be great. And we'll come right back to this video after you watch my cool new AI created intro. Thanks. All right, welcome back. Here we go. So this video is how to process Mosaic files in the new Seestar S50 Mosaic mode. People are noticing that you cannot really stack the subs the normal way that you would, because it's generating a mosaic and it's taking all different parts of the sky starting from the center and moving all around, and it's just the normal WBPP process is not equipped to stack that kind of data. And honestly, WBPP is a script. All of those things you're doing in it can be done separately and adjusted on your own. You should definitely check out, if you're new to this whole procedure of stacking, you should check out my other stacking video. It's really important that you see that video, because you're going to have to pick up on that video where I'm going to leave off here in the stacking process. I'm not going to explain it again because there's lots of people already know how to do it. So I'll tell you when to pick up on that other video, but this is the beginning part that's changing for these mosaic subs. Also, really important, last thing I need to say before we get into it is this is not my process. Once again, the stacking video originally and this new process with mosaic subs are all created by a gentleman with a Seestar. His name's Andre, and you'll see him on Facebook a lot. He's come up with some great images, and of course I'll link him when I post this on Facebook. But Andre is dynamic in creating these processes. He does a lot of experimentation. He's just not a social media guy. I guess he doesn't really, I don't think he can be arsed to make these videos, honestly. And to be fair, I don't want him making videos like this. I want him spending his time investigating and examining and coming up with new ways to do stuff, because he's got a real knack for that. His brain works perfectly for these types of things, and he's just a genius when it comes to figuring this stuff out. So I want to give him all the credit in the world, and this video is just basically echoing what I've learned from him. None of this is my own ideas, although I do have some experience to add that I will at the end of the video. So I don't care if you consider this part babbling or not. I have to mention that Andre from Facebook really is instrumental in this process. All right, let's get right into it. So these are the files I've created from this process. I've got a Horsehead Nebula. Actually, I'll start with the first one. This was the M42 Orion Nebula. I have 3 Seestars, and when I captured this, I used 2 of them, doing 2 mosaic rounds. I think it was at the 2x size. And then I took all the subs from the 2 mosaics and stacked them together with this process I'm going to show you. So I thought the result was pretty nice with this. I also did it with the Horsehead Nebula. This was a little bit different. I had some single just target exposures in the normal FOV of Seestar that I added in here. And I did a couple mosaics as well, and actually one of the mosaics turned off really off-centered, so some of the data was imbalanced because of it. But really the great part about this is you can use any of the subs you have. So let's say you shot large panes of something in the past, like let's say Andromeda, you tried to do a pane project with that. Manual mosaic, we'll call it. And now Seestar's mosaic process comes along. Those panes are not worthless. You can still use those. Basically, you're going to be telling telling Pixinsight what size image you want, and Pixinsight's going to pick the subs that you have and fill in the spots where they belong in that huge image you're going to tell it to follow. So you can use all your individual subs. Just keep in mind it will possibly create an imbalance in the data depending on what you're adding and what you have. So this was the second go around, and my last go around was this huge lagoon. I call it lagoon, northern lagoon, but really it's the lobster. The lobster claw nebula is the main part of this, I guess. And this was my first ever time doing a wide field process, so I'm gonna redo this. You can see M52, I separated the stars. I need to redo so I don't lose the stars in M52, but can separate out here. There's another little star cluster here, and just to me this is awesome. I'm sorry, but not my processing skills. It looks dirty up here, and not the best processing skills, but just the fact that I could capture this with a Seestar I think is friggin' awesome. Even the bubble nebula turned out really nice, and this is no drizzle here. Will take a long time to drizzle this, so I didn't do drizzle. This is just normal integration. But anyway, I think it turned out pretty nice. So let's figure it out. So basically, the first thing you're gonna want, well, one of the things you're gonna need to do eventually is create two folders. One is gonna hold your debayered files, and the other is gonna hold your registered files. These file folders you should be familiar with from WBPP. Um, and I basically just created them. You can actually just call them whatever you want. The name's not important. You'll see I have a registered file here. I just called it registered one. That holds all my registered files, and then I've got another folder that I use for Debayered. Somewhere in here, Mosaic process Debayered. It's here. So you should probably keep them together. I'll explain at the end of the video why these are separated, but normally you would just want them like this. I think these are the subs, these are the Debayered, these are the registered. So keep them all in the same folder you're using. So the next step is you want to pick the file you're going to be using, the image you're going to be using to generate your mosaic from, your final, the what you want to gather, the data you want to collect from the subs to make a final image. You can actually use any kind of image you want. Again, I'll talk about this at the end of the video. I don't want to babble too much for that because there's people who want to just get into it. So I'll show you what I ended up using, and I'm going to show you from the folder because I need to let you know something about that. Anyway, it's not in here. I think it ended up coming from labeled 7650 from Seestar, 7635, the bubble nebula. So you can see I have a couple of different things here. I created different mosaics. Originally, I used the beta 3x to make one big one, and then I kind of used the 3x again to get parts to the left and right because it still was not big enough. And I ended up with some 2x mosaics. The point is you can use whatever you capture. You'll just have to see how it turns out, but use whatever you capture. You don't have to waste any data with this process. In the end, I want to pick the largest file. This one ended up being 2700 by 4800. And I'm talking not in megabytes, but you want to pick the largest file in dimensions. And this ended up being the biggest, 3240 by 5760. This was a 3x that completed, or almost completed. It's not pretty, but, and you want to use the .fit file that was created. So here's the .fit file that matches this capture, and I already have it opened in Facebook. Pixinsight. It's right here. So the first thing you're going to do with this is you're going to image solve it. I've already done that. You're going to hit the image solver and just hit OK. You don't have to change any of the settings, and it's going to image solve it. Once it's image solved, that's when we're going to go on to the next part, and arguably, this is the most important part. You're going to go into scripts, and you're going to go into render, and you're going to pick catalog star generator. That's scripts, render, catalog star generator. And what this is going to do is this is going to take your image from the Seestar. Oh, really important. You want to make sure you have this selected. You want to make sure you have your dot fit selected when you go into this. I'm pretty sure I have mine selected, so it shouldn't be a problem. But just to quickly explain, this is going to take your image and it's just going to capture the stars from it, depending on what magnitude you select. And you're going to expand the image to cover as big an area as you think you need to. So if it's a small panel from, let's say, center of Andromeda, you want to increase it left, right, north, south, east, west. You want to increase the panel so that it's covering all the area of the sky that you collected data from. So that's basically what's happening here. So you're going to do user defined geometry, and you're just going to copy, and it's going to copy probably I've already done this before. It's going to copy the image solved information that you need. And you're going to see the dimensions here, 3240 by 5760. This is the main part. You want to increase this by however much of the sky you want to capture. So this was a rather large area of the sky, and I just decided to add 1000 pixels to each end of it. So I went from 3240 to 4240, and I went from 5760 to 6760. And basically this is gonna end up just doing 500 top, bottom, left, right, north, south, east, west, what have you. It's gonna increase the whole image by 500 pixels on each side. So if you did 2000, it would be 1000 on each side. It divides it evenly, expanding the image. So this is going to increase my image size, and you're going to say, well, that's all dark area. You didn't collect anything there. The mosaic.fit doesn't have any of that data. And that's true, but this is going to fill in what those stars are. So that's where the next step is. You want to make sure you keep this at focal distance, not resolution. And all this stuff can be kept normal, default. And here, maximum magnitude, this is just how many stars are going to be in the image. You can look, this generated a really dense star field. So it made a really dense star field with 19 magnitude. I probably could have decreased this, but really didn't end up making too much of a difference in the process. But I'm just going to keep it at 19 like Andre suggested. And you just hit OK. And now it's going to take your image and it's going to examine what it's got, and it's going to increase the image size to cover all the stars that are surrounding the area. This happens sometimes, this read only image. Normally it means you should sometimes restart Pixinsight, or I think that what I did last time was I just pulled the image again and did the process again. I don't know why this sometimes happens, but anyway, I'm not gonna bother walking through that. If this happens, close the image and open it again, image solve again, or I'm pretty sure that's what I did. Just try it again. I've heard this is a pretty normal error to have happen, according to Andre. So anyway, I've already done this, and this is what it's going to generate. As you can see, it's going to generate this huge star field, and probably the easiest recognizable thing right here is M52. It's down here, and you can see how many pixels this was increased by, you know, my Mosaic probably tapped out down here, so it added a nice 500 pixels to the bottom here. It added to the top, and it added left, and it added right to it. You can see this star cluster here matches here, and it added all this up here and all this area down here. You can see I have some bright stars down here that weren't even in this image, or maybe this one might have made it in. But the next thing you want to do is check and just look at this rotation. Do these stars kind of line up with your image? And you know, they definitely do. You can see they kind of follow the same general rotation. The rotation is what's important. So you can see it was generated well. Once you're done with that, you're going to go ahead and change this to RGB. It's not RGB. You want to go to image, color spaces, convert to RGB. Mine's already RGB because I've already done it, but you're going to want to convert to RGB. It's going to turn red, and you can just reset and do a normal restretch on it, and it will look just like this. Now you can save this, and you can use this forever. For any time you want to stack to make this process, you should save this as your reference frame. This is what you're going to use all the time when you're in this area of the sky, and don't worry that it might be bigger. If I wanted to stack just the bubble nebula, I could use this. However, caveat to that is that this file's huge. This is a large file, and again, I'll address that at the end of the video. You really, if you're interested, you should stick around at the end and listen to some of this stuff because it affects the decisions you make. I'm still debating whether I should mention it now, but basically the size of this, even if you're stacking just the M52 one Seestar FOV, it's gonna generate a huge file when you register because it's looking at all of this. So it's gonna generate a massive file. So you want to keep that in mind, and that's also, you want to keep that in mind when you decide how big you want to expand it. I heard Andre suggested 500. I did 1,000 because I knew that I captured some bigger mosaics outside of this area. You know, I broke this in half and captured some big mosaics from each side, so I knew I had a lot of data. That's why I made this big. I only made it 500 stars large for the horse head, and only 500 for Orion, but this one I did 1,000. So after you're done with that, make sure you save it. This is important. I'm just going to keep it up here for now. And then the next step is you're going to need to debayer your files. So when you're doing that, I think I mentioned you just click run after you oh no, never mind. Anyway, you turn this into RGB and you're done with that. So next step is you're going to open star alignment. Maybe I skipped a step here. No, I think it's okay. You need to debayer all your subs basically at this point, and this is just process debayer. You could have done this already. Doesn't really matter when you do this, but this is, you're gonna click Debayer. This is the same thing you select when you're doing stacking. These days I've been using, instead of VNG, I've been using bilinear. Again, that was a suggestion from Andre. It removes a little bit of the noise from the image. And since you're putting noise back in a lot when you drizzle, I thought this was a good trade-off, but you can still keep it VNG if you like. You can experiment with this. And you're gonna add all your files that you are debayering. So like before, I had my subs here, I think in this mosaic process. I'll add all these subs, select them all. I'm not gonna hit run, but I will just You're going to select all the subs you want to use. Doesn't matter if they're from Bubble, Lobster Claw, any of the data you've collected from this area you're adding. Add it all. And then you just want to make sure you select that folder, that debayered folder that we were just looking at here. I'm just going to select that as my output. Doesn't matter what you called it. And you're just going to hit global run, apply global, and it's going to debayer all your files just like it would in WBPP, that first step that it does. Okay, after you're done with that, now this is really the last part, and this is the nitty gritty of it all with the registration. Well, it's not the last part, but it's the last and new part I'm going to show you. So now you go to process all processes, and we're going to do star alignment down here. Star alignment. And your star alignment frame, guess what? We know what it is. It's this huge one we just made. We're going to put this here as our reference image. You don't have to change any of this stuff. We're going to add our debayered files. So you're going to go into this. You're going to add all your debayered files. There we go. Hopefully this will not slow up my computer with the recording here. Pick the output directory as your registered folder. I'm pretty sure you can get the hint here. Select a registered folder. It's going outputting to registered. And now this is the stuff you gotta pay attention to down here. Star detection. There's some scales here about how many wavelet layers it uses to detect the stars, and you've got a lot of stars. Andre said to put this at 6. He said I could keep it at 5 too if I wanted. I just put it at 6 for this. And the next thing you're going to do is star matching, super important. You're going to want to have compute intersections at always. This is a very important step. Andre, I'm pretty sure, told me he was excited when he figured this part out. It helped a lot. Also, you can up this number. It will just take longer, and you can pick hexagons. I think you kind of get the point of the shapes, and it's going to be matching the size of the stars. And obviously, the more sides you add that it's checking, the longer it's going to take. So you can up this, and if you're finding a lot, you're going to have a lot of the subs rejected around the edges because they're not going to completely fit unless you made a super huge reference file. You might get them all to fit, but you're still gonna lose some subs. This was 2,500 subs. It got down to 1,882 when it was done. So you can see I lost a little over 600 subs. I could have changed this. It would have taken longer, and it might have saved some more subs, but I was actually okay with the result. So, and then once you have all this selected, this is another global run. Now, I know this is probably getting into rambling territory again, but you have to be really careful with how much storage you have available. My suggestion to you, and this I did not do. I did it a second time around. Is you can just go ahead and run star alignment with one sub. Take the first sub. When you just add 1 and run star alignment, and basically it's going to generate that registered file for you, and you can check and see how big that file is, because I am warning you, they're pretty big. Depending on how many stars you increased by. You can see I increased by a lot, and this ended up being gigantic. This one registered sub is 296,000 kilobytes. Oh my god. So when I first calculated, if all 2,500 subs have been successful, I'm looking at 740 gigabytes of data. So there was not enough room on my internal hard drive. And these register subs pretty much filled up my SSD, external SSD, and then when I went to integrate, it it stalled my SSD because there was not enough room left on my SSD for the memory cache. So really you need to gauge how much space you have, and it's going to really control how big stars are. I mean, how big of the star generation file you do, and it's also going to control how big of a project you want to work on. You're really going to have to keep that into account, and you also got to realize the time it takes. So again, I ended up with, when this was all said and done, it was 531 gigabytes. um so like 1800 or so subs, since some of those are the drizzle data. Anyway, it was huge, and the registration took 12 and a half hours. So I think you kind of get the picture. Also, my computer restarted for a Windows update, so but luckily I could pick up where it left off and register the rest. You can register them in bunches if you want, but eventually they're all going to need to be together for the integration process. So really just keep it in mind. It takes a long time depending on your computer, and wow, you can imagine after 12 and a half hours, I was like, was this really worth it? And then I opened I did the integration. The integration took a while too. And the integration I had some problems with. I had to change the memory cache, the buffer part of that. I found after doing some research. So if you run into that problem, you can PM me on Facebook or comment on this YouTube channel, and I will fill you in on how I solved that issue. But integration took up a lot of my, this is 32 gigabytes of memory, and it didn't really separate it well and crashed the memory on my computer to where it just failed. It ran out of memory to do the integration process. So anyway, once the integration was done, another 2.5 hours, I think. I was like, oh my God, 15 hours for this, and it's not even drizzle. Was this worth it? And then I opened this, and I was like, hell yeah, it was worth it. I was blown away. I couldn't believe that this came out of this process. I I I told Andre I must have said something besides hell yeah, a little bit cruder than that. I must have said it like 15 times looking at it. When I made it bigger and investigated it, I was like, oh my God, so awesome. Just so you can see, after I made that, I cropped it, and then the crop was so awesome. I actually had to fight with the crop because, as you can see, it was like a really weird shape here. So I just had to keep rotating and fixing and messing with the crop and catching exactly what I wanted, until finally I came up with this pretty awesome crop that I was pretty happy with. This is the crop. Turned out awesome. I got all of M52. I had satellite trails I removed using Affinity. It was no big deal. I don't even think I touched this one here. But anyways, I ended up with this sick crop, and I was pretty happy with it. So you can see, it's awesome. Anyway, that's the process. So basically, after that registered folder, you're going to pick up right in that integration step from the video, from my other video about stacking that came from Andre. Just follow through with your normal integration procedure on that. And if you've never done that before, you really have to check out that video. But I'm not going to get into that. It's pretty cut and dry. Most people know how to do it at this point. Anyway, if you're not ready for the babbling, I pretty much covered what I wanted to. I ended up saying what I wanted to say, but if you don't want to hear the babbling, you can stop watching the video now. Please subscribe if it was helpful. I'm sorry if I'm not good at making these videos, but hopefully this still will help you out. Again, this is for you guys to figure out how to do it. All right, babbling time. I already touched on how you're making this big, and how the file's huge, and how it can affect your memory in your computer. And I really touched on how important this part is, picking this part of the sky that you want to use. If I'm going to do something like the M42 I gathered, I didn't have any single M42 frames, so it was only Mosaic that I had. And this was the reference frame I used for that. It only ended up being 500 stars added onto the edges, so it was not nearly as big of a file. I don't remember what the registration turned out to be, but for these smaller projects, I don't think you need to be too wary of your uh, device storage space and all that. This ended up being pretty normal size. If I eventually I'm gonna want to gather more of M42, and I'm gonna have to make a bigger one than this because there's a lot of cool darker dust lanes that I want to capture, and it's a high signal target, so I definitely want to go for that. And with 3 Seestars, I can collect it rather quickly. So anyway, that's basically what I wanted to say, and I wanted to show you that the last thing I just want to show you is that for M31, which is obviously a pretty popular target now, I have a lot of subs for M31, and I was doing a pain project with that before this Seestar, before the Seestar process came out for Mosaic. So like M31, I've got data everywhere. Like it's pretty crazy. Uh, I've got left of core data. These are panes. I've got the regular Mosaic subs I did from the new Mosaic mode. I've got a right of core, and then I didn't like the size and I made right of core 2. So I've got a ton of data, and this is the core. None of this I have to get rid of. I can use this all when I decide to finally pick uh, my reference frame. I can use all of this data. None of it's going to go to waste. Um, and another important thing I wanted to see, I have all these different, I actually did 3 separate 2x mosaics. So this is a 2x, this is a center, and there's a right 2x somewhere. One of these is right, one of these is left. So I did, and then I just made one really big mosaic here, but still didn't really cover all of it like I wanted to. But again, the point is, you can use all this data. You don't have to ignore any of it. Just put it all in. I'm going to use, you can even use your single shots of the core from the normal Seestar FOV and add those in. It may cause a signal imbalance, keep in mind, but more data is always better. So um, I'll end up making a really big reference star from this. And the last thing I want to tell you is it doesn't matter how big the images you choose for your reference star frame. Like let's say that I'm just gonna use one of these regular I didn't want to click on, yeah, I'm just gonna use one of these regular uh, field of view of the Seestar. This is just its normal non-mosaic field of view. I can use this and I can just increase. I don't want to use the JPEG to clarify. I want to use the fit, but I can use this fit, and I just need to decide how big of the stars I want to generate. Andre even told me if you have something that's like a left of core, I don't really have the individual subs left of core, but let's say that like I use this. He even said that you can crop this down like to this area as long as it will image solve, crop it down, image solve it, and then you can just expand that way, and it will expand in both directions evenly. So you can even use something that's off center, just you have to crop it and get close to center or something like that. The point is you can use any of these frames to star generate. Andre says that he's using this as his normal stacking method now, even for single exposures with the normal mode in Seestar. So anyway, yeah, I guess I babbled. I really hope I answered all your questions. Of course, you can leave comments about any questions you have. You can hit me up on Facebook, whatever you need. I'm here to answer, and I'm really happy to share this information with you. And again, big thanks to Andre uh, discovering all this and being our experimenter and our frontiersman for this new smart scope era. Anyway, thanks guys. Please subscribe if you liked it. If you hated it, keep it to yourself. What can I say? Cheers, guys. I hope you have a good time capturing your images, and I wish you lots of luck with clear skies, and let's see those results. Take care.